Join us on this week's Taking Care of Business. We're talking records equaled and records broken in the real estate market.
You see in 10 months already, there's been more transactions than the entirety of 2022.
We're going to tell you which price segment of the market is the most active and has increased by the highest percent so far this year.
3 to 5 million price bracket saw 109% increase in number of transactions year on year.
And we're also going to be posing the question, is relief on the way for tenants in the market, or is it more of the same for landlords?
We're now seeing that largest percentage of 4 or more checks.
Tune in to find out this and a whole lot more.
On Taking Care of Business this week, we have a data special talking about the first 10 months in Dubai and all the things that have happened so far. We've got some really interesting numbers to talk to you about today and what is actually happening in the Dubai property market. My name is Carl Allsopp and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Allsopp and Operations, and I am joined by the main man, Operations Director, Paul Kelly.
Thank you. A lot of operations on today's podcast.
A lot of operations today. So, mate, the data podcast we talk about once a month is always one of my favourites.
Yeah, same.
Also, one of the most watched podcasts because I think lots of people are second guessing what's happened in the marketplace. You know, is the momentum carrying on? What will happen next year? Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have some cold, hard facts that share with you about where we are for the year today. And maybe we'll put some thoughts on what your next year might look like.
Yeah.
So, there's some big headline numbers, and some of the things we'll be covering today is records being broken, the super sellers in Dubai and what that actually is, and rentals.
Super sellers.
Super sellers.
Supersize me.
Oh my God. And could rental relief be on the way? There are key talking points today. So, you want to start us off with transactions for October. What happened?
So there's two big headlines for the month. First off, in October, the total transaction levels for 2023 so far have surpassed the full year for 2022. So far in 2023, there's been 93,500 transactions. Last year for the full year, there was 92,178. So
amazing.
2 months ago, we've already smashed last year. And if anyone was following the market last year and listening to the podcast, last year was also a record. So Dubai just keeps on with the momentum.
Just to add context, these numbers are Dubai data numbers, not our numbers. Yeah. We'd love them to be our numbers.
I wouldn't be sat here now. Sold 93,000 properties.
But you see in 10 months already, there's been more transactions than the entirety of 2022.
Yeah. And then the second big headline grabber is the average price per square foot has matched the previous peak in the market, which came in 2014. That's so the average price per square foot now is 1,232 dirhams.
I've got a question on that. So naturally, when people hear peak, it can maybe make people feel a little bit nervous. What's your feeling and on the ground when you hear it speaking to agents? You know, do you think there's a little bit of cautiousness with people in the marketplace because they've seen that peak and they know what happened after that peak?
Yeah, but I think, like we've said before, what happened in 2014 was downward pressure from the government on the market. And what we mean by that is the transfer fees were doubled from 2% to 4%, and you needed a higher deposit to purchase property, so you got lower loan to value. So that wasn't like an economic factor or anything outside. That was an artificially created situation, if you want to put it that way, that put a downward pressure on the market. So if not, then the 2014 average price per square foot would have been higher. So I'd look at last month, there was a 16% rise in transactions. This is Allsopp and Operations data. So there's still a lot of transactions happening in the market. Dubai is still cheap compared to any major city in the world. If you go to central London, you're probably looking at 20 to 30,000 dirhams a square foot in some locations. So I think there's still a way to go in the market. The way the demand is in the market at the moment, our client registration levels, which we'll come on to, have risen month on month and year on year again. So for me personally, I don't think, whilst it's a milestone to talk about and to reach, I don't think it's anything that should make people nervous in the market.
It was very much a talking point in the news. I think it's always, when you reach a peak, it always makes people a little bit, wow, like we're there again. Like you say, the dynamics are very different. I think the population numbers are grossly different to what they were, 9-10 years ago. And then numbers, for what it seems to be, and certainly by the measure of the roads, it's so busy. So I think that number we'll be talking about will be will be high as we go into 2024. I'm pretty sure of that. But what was very interesting is, I think the last 3 years, and I'm pretty sure you agree with me on this, Dubai has been associated with lots of off-plan property sales, lots. Then there's been lots of launches, lots of things sell out. You've seen it all in the news, people queuing up. But last month, number of transactions recorded at the Dubai Land Department, have a guess how many percentage of sales were secondary, meaning properties that are built and being resold again. Maybe not guessing because you've got the numbers to hand, but it's a lot higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
You want to share what was?
So 79% of the market was secondary sale transactions in October. And for most of this year and probably last year, it's been more of a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
It's been a lot closer comparison between off-plan and secondary. I do have a theory on it. There's no facts behind it, but what I feel is we're seeing the effects in October of slower summer months for the off-plan market. There wasn't that much launched naturally over the summer months because it's associated with a time that people leave. So I think it's that, coupled with the fact that in September, we all remember the videos from then of Palm Jebel Ali launch, DIFC launch, launches in JVC where we're all talking about, wow, it's like 2008 again, there's swarms of people everywhere. Again, it's unsubstantiated, but I just feel that with a combination of the summer months and the big launches in September, that then from the developer's point of view, takes a lot of time to process all the SPAs, all the client details, get the documentation together. It's probably had a knock-on effect in terms of the actual paperwork they've been submitting to the land department to do the registrations. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of months we actually see a reverse of that.
I agree. I think in Q1 next year we'll see a largely favoured percentage of transactions in a single month weighting more towards secondary sales. Market below 3 million dirhams. So I think this is probably not what I think, it's the numbers show that property per purchase below 3 million dirhams are taking up the vast majority of transactions. So according to DLD sales, Dubai Land Department sales, 73.2% of property sales were below 3 million dirhams, which is circa $900,000, £700,000, give or take. Thoughts on that? I've got a theory, but what's your thoughts?
I think this points to a number of things. First of all, this segment of the market in any property market of the world is what drives the market. We always have the top end, the ultra high net worth individuals, the millionaire migration, but this normal everyday person price bracket is what drives any market in the world. And I think what we're seeing is more normal everyday people making Dubai their home, whether they're tenants at the moment, getting onto the property ladder, or with the population grow and the influx, people coming to Dubai and looking to step on the ladder straight away. Some Property Finder data for you. And the reason I've got this is we had a meeting with our Property Finder account manager just an hour ago. So the top 10 communities for sales leads in October: Downtown Dubai, Jumeirah Village Circle, this is in order, Dubai Marina, Business Bay, Dubai Hills Estate Apartments, Palm Jumeirah, Dubai Land. It's all entry level, mostly apartments. It's all entry level properties to the market, which is what I think we're seeing play out in the stats. It's
also a consequence of month-on-month rate rises. So I think that affordability, it's not just your monthly payments are now a lot more money. It means you now have to put down a lot more in terms of deposit, but also your affordability is significantly affected. So I think these 3 million dirham buyers right now, or sub 3 million dirham buyers, probably 18 months ago could have qualified to have lent up to 5 million, providing they had the deposit. And that's the real shift in interest rates coming down. So interesting reading. I think next year, we touch wood, that the interest rates will come down very slowly. We don't want it to come down too quickly and overheat the marketplace. I think you might see that shift in purchase price go up to 4.5, 4 million dirhams, something like that.
Well, what is interesting as well, and this is from Allsopp and Allsopp data, in October, which again, it's 1 month, so we can read a little bit into it, we can't read everything into it. Our transactions between 3 and 5 million rose 36% month on month. So even in that 3 to 5 million, I think there's a lot of activity, whereas maybe over 5 million, we saw a bit more of a drop off in transactions. So I think it's shifting all the way through the market. You're exactly right. Like people's affordability are changing, and we're seeing the greatest impact in the rise of transaction numbers in the what we'd call maybe lower price brackets.
Yeah, I agree. So jumping on to secondary versus off-plan, some of the data we've got here, we saw 1,362 off-plan properties in volume versus 5,100 secondary, which we talked about before. But off-plan stood at 3.5 billion in property sales. Still, it's a massive
It's a huge contribution.
Versus 20.8 billion in property value. Apartments. Want to share what happened there? Apartments, tour by apartments and villas?
Yeah, so again, this is Dubai Land Department's a whole of market data. Apartments saw a combined sales value of 7.7 billion, while villas stroke townhouses, I'm sure we'll separate them out at some point in our careers in data. But again, this isn't from us, this is how it's presented to us, is 11.1 billion dirhams worth of transactions. And again, how we get the data, but there's another category which is largely commercial, saw 5.5 billion dirhams worth of transactions, which is very busy for the commercial market as well, to be fair.
Very much so. So some notable sales. I think people always like to be a bit nosy and see what's happening. Yeah, see what's happening. Some headline numbers of notable sales that happened last month. 220 million for a penthouse at Ava and Palm Jumeirah. Insane numbers. Huge. Insane. There was a villa sold at 95 million in Emirates Hills, L sector. And then for 70.3 million, Long Island in Jumeirah in Tilal Al Gaf, which, again, huge numbers. Just goes to show there's still very much an appetite for that end of the market.
Do you know what? And what's interesting is, for anyone that knows where Tilal Al Gaf is, it's by Sports City, by Victory Heights, by Jumeirah Golf Estates. What we're seeing in that area is a real increase in terms of the size and the value of properties. So whereas traditionally most of the bigger transactions would have been your likes of the Emirates Hills, your likes of a Palm Villa, your likes of an Al Barari, we're now seeing these large transactions, large luxurious villas in other parts of the city now as well.
I like to say coin a phrase from our head of developer sales, rising tide lifts all, he says.
Yeah, lifts all.
Obviously for these communities that have got very expensive properties in, it's actually very good for the surrounding properties in that area. Like Tilal Al Gaf, you tend to find if you've got higher priced property, it tends to lift the rest of the marketplace up. So if you're owning these areas, you've probably done pretty well.
100%, definitely.
So some of our data. October was one of our busiest months in recent memory. However, to sound incredibly salesy, but genuine figures were 64% new clients increased, 36% increase in new property listings, and a 20% increase in more viewings.
So this, sorry to butt in, but flips back to why when we're talking about the average sales price and whether we think we've peaked in the market, I don't think so with this information. 64% more buyers and 20% more viewings.
What it just tells me that people are maybe, is it the fear of missing out? Is it the rental market price increases driving people to buy? One thing for sure is on the ground level, we are seeing tremendous amount of activity going into Q4, which typically for us as a business, I think Dubai as a whole, Q4 is one of the busiest parts of the year.
Yeah.
The average sales price of Allsopp and Allsopp. 3.115 million dirhams, which coincides nicely with some of the data we talked about earlier on, where that sub 3 million market is the hottest at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. And to back that up, going back maybe 4 or 5 months, the average sale price was actually higher than that. It's about 3.6. Now, when we're reading into data, we have to be careful not to say, it's 3.6, now it's 3.115. It's not that the market's dropping. It's just that the increase in activity from 1 to 5 million is affecting the average numbers. So the higher properties are still there, they're still selling. It's just that we're seeing an even bigger increase in the sub 5 million, which is drawing the overall average price down. So it's not bad. It's actually positive things. Like I said, any property market is driven by first-time buyers, second-time buyers.
Well, the number of transactions versus last year for us, up 34%. Which is phenomenal. So obviously the amount of people buying properties has increased. However, the second number, apartments, up 2.4%. How do you put the differences there? Is it that down to less villa townhouses versus apartments available?
Yeah, definitely in terms of supply in the market. But what I'm interested in for the apartment figures is, I actually think over the coming months we're going to see that 2.4% figure increase. Going off what we were saying before about even Property Finder data on the top search trends, seems like everyone's looking for apartments at the moment, linking in what you're saying with the interest rates and affordability. So I think it is because there's less supply in the villa market, especially vacant villas, which we always talk about, that they command a premium. But for the apartments, actually, if someone's looking to invest at the moment, I would say the apartments is where to go and where to put your money, because I think we'll see more of an increase there over the next 6 months.
3 to 5 million price bracket saw 109% increase in number of transactions year on year. Again,
So 100, yes, I think 36%. What I said was month on month, but 109% year on year. So it's like I say, people. And it's the same old story. Tenants are buying because they don't want to. Most places in the world at the moment have economical or other kinds of trouble. So Dubai is a very good place for a lot of people to be for many different reasons. And this is where your normal everyday person is purchasing properties in this price bracket.
where we've been busy in October, so the most amount of apartments in kind of the most popular areas where we've been selling, downtown Dubai, Dubai Marina and Dubai Hills Estate have been the most popular in apartment sales. Villa sales, The Springs, Arabian Ranches and Al Reem have been very, very popular in amongst our sales teams. Want to share us a little bit about the our townhouse sales and what's been happening there at the Allsopp data?
So obviously we gave you the average figures for the market earlier. For villas, townhouses, the average sale price in October was 4.187 million. Sales volume, 34.3% increase year on year. And again, we've just gone over the popular areas in terms of where people are purchasing. On the apartment front, the average apartment price was 2.229 million. Sales volume for the apartments rose 1.2% month on month and 2.4% year on year. And again, we've been over the top transacting areas. What I would say, just to interject the conversation at this point, all of these figures are more for your particular area or your particular property, either that you own that you're interested in. If you visit DataHub on the Allsopp and Allsopp website, you'll be able to see down to an individual unit what's happening in the market in the particular area that you're interested in at any one time.
I think it's been, it's very clear that a lot of people over the last few years with the rents going up have been staying put. I think the renewal rate in terms of across the country, more people have been renewing and taking incremental rent increases rather than looking for somewhere else. However, in the last month, we've seen a 106% increase in new people looking for rental properties. So that might suggest to me that landlords are probably getting a little bit savvy with rental notices, maybe forcing people out to look for somewhere else because there's a disparity from a rent from a few years ago to today's rental price. We've seen such a shift, and that results in 77% more people out viewing with us than this time last year.
So again, I'll refer back to the meeting we had with Property Finder as well. I can't obviously share their lead data figures, but if you see the graph from June onwards in terms of the overall leasing leads on the website, lettings leads on the website, it's like a 45-degree angle going upwards. So which marries in with what we're saying in terms of viewings and client registration. So, and in terms of what you're saying, I think it's a population growth thing, definitely. But then also, like you say, more landlords wising up, more people finding themselves back on the rental market. But the numbers on Property Finder at the moment for lettings inquiries are higher than they've ever been before.
I think everyone watching this podcast interested in Dubai real estate will know rental prices. And if you live in a rental, you probably would have felt the pain. It's been rental prices have jumped significantly in the last few years in particular. And what was interesting to me was when we did our report last month is the number of checks someone's putting down now. So obviously when you rent a property in Dubai, you sign a tenancy contract and your rental payments are typically either made in direct debit, which is not as common at the minute, or number of checks. As of 7 months ago, the highest percentage of number of checks was one check or two checks for renting a property. We're now seeing that largest percentage of 4 or more checks. So what it tells me is because the rental prices have gone up so much in the last couple of years, it means that from a tenant's perspective, they're having to put down less frequent checks, but smaller amounts. That makes sense to be able to afford the rental contract. So very, very interesting. It's obviously clear that landlords are being flexible to allow them to get the higher prices that are in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think they have to be. And with the spike of tenants in the market, it does suggest that something is happening out there. Like I say, there's population growth is one, but the tenants in the market are also coming from previous tenancies that they've had. So affordability will be an issue. And like I say, that's why you see an increase in checks people need to pay in, because they can no longer reach the prices being asked in 1 or 2 checks.
Sadly, if you are a tenant, I do have more bad news for you from our data. And again, it is only our data and it is a percentage of the marketplace. We are still seeing rental price increases month on month. Villa townhouses, apartments, you're looking at 2.8% increase we're seeing at our end. And rental apartment increases are actually increasing more at 3.6%.
Yeah, the glimmer of, not the glimmer of hope, because that sounds awful, but the piece of data I would put out there to give tenants a little bit of light relief. New property listings on the rental side are up 96% year on year. So it seems like more suppliers coming into the market, which then might make life a little bit easier for some tenants.
It does link very nice. So more people are out looking at properties now, more properties in the market. So probably by theory of people having to leave their properties because the price is going up.
Yeah,
probably rings
all
quite true
together.
There. Okay, so some of the lettings data. Excuse me. The average letting price was 283,000 dirhams per year last year, which is probably £60,000 per year average rental. Lettings volume, we've seen a 67% increase year on year, which is absolutely huge. And some of the most popular areas for villa townhouses were Reem, Arabian Ranches 3, Springs, Tilal Al Gaf, and Arabian Ranches. What about apartments?
So the apartments, the average lettings price was 131,000. The transaction volume increase was 46%, and the top transacting areas, as you might expect, downtown Dubai, Dubai Marina, Business Bay, Jumeirah Lake Towers, and DIFC.
And before we wrap things up, Allsopp and Operations nationality data. So we'd always like to keep an eye on who's transacting in the business. We look for certain trends and what's happening. To no surprise, and I think there's been very little change with the number one top spot. British clients comprise of roughly 30% of all our clients at Allsopp and Operations. On the letting side, followed by Indian, Russian, French, and Italians. Top 5 buyer nationalities, we didn't say much change there. Again, British first position at 19%, followed by Indians at 8%, and then the remaining of French, Russians, Turkish, and other nationalities.
What's interesting, and obviously we'll keep an eye on this over the next couple of months as well, over the last couple of weeks there's been a few headlines in the newspapers about the Russians and the Russian buyers and the weakening of the ruble and everything else, and how Russians aren't seen Dubai as such an attractive place anymore. Our data kind of contradicts everything else that's out there at the moment. So, like I say, maybe we're an anomaly or one thing or another, but it'd be interesting to keep an eye on the last couple of weeks, because we're not seeing maybe what's being reported elsewhere.
No, I mean, look, the reality is 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when we kind of seen that big flurry of Russian, kind of people coming into country, you're bound to have a little burst, and it's bound to kind of peter off. But our numbers are still suggesting there's still appetite. Obviously, the number of Russian people renting is, from history, is higher than it has been normally. Be interested to see how that impacts the marketplace. I think, from my perspective, how I measure the market and what's happening in it is on the ground level is, are the number of people registering with us as a real estate agency, it's probably the largest, if not the largest, are the number of people registering with us, is it increasing month on month? Yes, it is. Are the number of people viewing month on month, is that increasing? Yes, it is. Is the number of buyers we're registering month on month, is that increasing? Yes, it is. That are the key barometers, and when we start seeing dips in that, it could contribute towards maybe the market taking a shift. But I don't think we're nowhere near at the end of that cycle, even though we're at the peak of
average per square foot. Yeah, I agree completely. The data is telling us at the moment there's a way to go yet.
So, crystal ball, get it out, give it a little rub. 2024, we are 6 weeks
I
away.
know,
which is
it's
scary, by
crazy.
the way.
Yeah.
6 weeks away. What does 2024 look like for Dubai real estate? 'Cause we're planning for next year already, but what do you think it has in store?
I'd have to say, again, looking at the data, a continuation of this year. Maybe we won't see prices go up at the same trajectory or one thing or another, but I think we'll see the average price per square foot broken. We're equal at the moment, so I mean that's, I guess, not the most prophetic is that the word, statement to make. But I think, as you said, we can only look at the data in terms of demand on the ground at the moment. It's increasing month on month, year on year. So I think the market will pretty much carry on as we are at the moment in terms of transaction levels increasing, transactions at a high level. I think prices. Okay, so the reason I'm hesitating and stumbling on prices is because we've said for a while now we have to stop looking at Dubai as the whole market. We need to talk in individual markets. So in some communities, people are still fighting over prize units or prize plots or vacant units in villa communities. So I think in some communities we're gonna still see quite a few price increases to go. Maybe in some of the more communities where there's more of a supply, will there be a decrease? I don't really think so, but probably maybe less of a smaller percentage increase in terms of some other areas.
I heard on the radio the other day from Rajan Jahanki, he's the CEO of Property Monitor, one of our great partners with us. He was talking about the percentage increase in the population was circa increasing 3%, but the number of supply into market was increased 10%. We are still today undersupplied.
Yeah.
If you look at most communities, you probably can't get something ready and available. So if that then numbers year on year are the same, we've still got some quite years ahead to kind of have parity with actually supply and demand, which is interesting. I actually think the population numbers will probably be higher than 3% as the numbers have started being revealed.
I think so. Like I said earlier, I think Dubai is such an attractive place for so many people at the moment. I mean, people's first thought on that is, like if there's wars going on, people come to Dubai. I don't mean that. I think the UK economically isn't in a great place. We see so many people coming over from the UK. Europe economically isn't in a great place. We see a lot of people coming from Europe. There's a lot of people coming over from China at the moment.
And the US as well. You've got a big year next year with the elections. It causes frustration with what's happening there. So, I think with this country at the minute, let's take away our opinion. The numbers suggest that I would like to see some continued slow and steady growth for 2024.
I'd agree. And again, that's what the data's telling us.
Okay, guys. Well, hopefully you took some value out of this podcast and some data. And if you've got any questions at all, you can fire to me and Paul. Drop us a message in either any of the social channels we've got, YouTube. We'll make sure someone gets back to you with our feedback. Hopefully you find it valuable when coming to buy or rent your next property in Dubai with the leading real estate broker, Allsopp and Operations. Take care, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you.